One of the things that attracted me is that I knew this university. I'd been here when I was a student, and so I already had a lot of information about the university. I wasn't a student at Ohio University, but I was a debater, and I did forensics when I competed across the country and had been on this campus more than once. So a good way to think about the provost job is that they're the chief academic officer for the university. So the purview of the office is that those things that have to do with the internal pieces of the university functioning in terms of academic quality, curricular issues, the mechanics of the colleges, those are the things that are in the purview of the provost's office. The pieces that have to do with being executive vice president are more expansive, so institutional research, institutional equity, enrollment management, all of those aspects are also in this office as well, so that it has also a broadened function beyond what you sometimes will see in a provost purview. And I like that. I like the fact that I know that there will be something new and interesting to work on every single day. I think it's important to think about who your leadership is, how you get people who will really be interested in the vision for the future. And I think we've been very lucky in being able to get an extraordinary leadership team. So it's useful to have a diversity of opinions at the table, and I think we've managed to put together a team that brings a different set of perspectives that allows us to lay out all those issues. And in some cases, and I've been in situations before, not here, but I've been in situations before where you build a team around you that just simply says, yes, 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 this is the way we should go. But that's not the case here. There's clearly a perception that we ought to get all of the opinions on the table and thrash those out and think about all the different ways in which we might approach a problem before coming to some sort of idea about how to solve that problem. And so I bring a different perspective than Mr. Golding brings, and yet we work very well together. And the same thing with Dr. Lombardi. It's nice to call him Dr. Lombardi now. And so he brings a different perspective too, but together we're better than any one of us alone. I am trying really hard to help students to understand the context for which tuition increases come. We're talking with the Student Senate about various options around tuition, and we'll talk with the board about other kinds of options around tuition, so the differential tuition and the guaranteed tuition model. So we're looking at alternative ways to look at tuition. But I think it's a good argument, but we're trying our best to make that argument with students. If you have an alternative way of making it, I'd be glad to hear it.
You know, you mentioned the alternative tuition models.
Mm-hmm.
My impression, though, from those is that while it's an alternative way of thinking of the tuition, the university is still going to need to raise the revenue.
That's right.
So, you know, while students were initially
but it's the amount that they pay and over what period of time and whether or not it's stable that changes in those models.
So the goal there is to make it easier, you know, on the individual student.
That's right.
Although we still have to find a way to make the revenue.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. I mean, it's a business model. So the question is, how do you get the funding that's necessary in order to deliver the education? If you want to be able to pay faculty what they need in order to stay at the institution to teach, if you want to be able to deliver the curriculum that you need in order to get a quality education, you have to pay the bill. And if you have to pay the bill, it has to come from somewhere. If it's not coming from the state, if we can't raise all the money that we need from external funding, there has to be other sources of that revenue. We're trying to raise it from alternative sources of revenue. We're trying to cut some expenses without impacting the quality of the education. And the other source is from tuition. And so we're trying to balance those kinds of sources of revenue. But we don't want to cut in so deeply that we begin to impact negatively the quality of the education that students have.